that science and religious beliefs are opposed to one another, or do you believe that they can coexist?
They coexist. Yes.
I guess they're kind of opposed to each other, I think.
They can coexist.
I believe they can coexist, definitely.
Hopefully they can coexist, but right now I think they oppose.
I believe they can coexist.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they coexist on a lot of things. I think that the church needs to step up a little bit and work with science a little bit better, but I think that they're doing a good job right now.
I think that sometimes they oppose each other in facts of evolution and creation. I know that's a big controversy, but science has proved over the years that creation is true, and I think there's only one God, and there was either creation or evolution, and I believe that creation was the thing.
And why do you believe this?
Well, because the Bible says so, and also there's been many facts to prove it down through the studies of the scientists and all.
Quoting from my friend Keith Hardeman, the Bible explains everything that science can.
I was talking in physics the other day with my teacher, and we're talking the Big Bang Theory, and it just totally goes with God and totally reinforces everything that we've learned in the Catholic religion.
Is the Earth less than 10,000 years old or more like billions of years old?
Did humans evolve naturally from other life forms, or were they created in their present form?
When does life begin?
Is there more to truth than what can be observed?
These are just a few of the questions that we wrestle with as human persons.
Many would have us believe that to find these answers, you must choose between science and faith.
That's what we'll be talking about today. Science and religious belief. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Catherine.
And this is Realfaith TV. Our spotlight guest today, Christy, loves science and her Catholic faith.
She will talk with us later in the show about her views on science and religious belief.
We'll also talk with the teens on the street again, but first let's find out what our studio guests believe when it comes to science and religion.
Let's meet them. They are Elias, Pedram, Alex, Caitlin, Dylan, and Katie.
So guys, the majority of the teens in the street that we talked with don't believe that religion and science oppose each other. How do you guys feel about this?
There was this one person that said they oppose each other now, and I think I agree with that. There's certain times when they don't, but then when there's a higher interest in it, they kind of clash.
I kind of think that they don't. I mean, I think oftentimes they'll support each other and stuff. Like, it's just, like, I find the more I find out about science, the more I realize, wow, what God did is, like, amazing. So it's just kind of like science reinforces my belief rather than taking it away.
Yeah, I agree with the guy at the end that said on some topics, science and religion clash, like evolution or creation. But sometimes, like Jack said, they do support each other.
I think that science and religion support each other in a lot of different areas, but the topics that we've chosen to focus on in this day and age, they clash majorly.
I think science and religion oppose each other because in the Bible it says that God created humans, but in science it says that it was through evolution that they came from microorganisms to regular human beings today. So I don't see how there is like a similarity between that.
Well, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I kind of disagree because I think that they oppose each other somewhat and that they clash at times, but they can coexist with each other.
Like, I always find that the times science and religion, they don't clash when it comes to what's true as often as they clash when it comes to what's right and what's ethical. Like, I find that seems to be a lot of the clashing points between science and religion.
Yeah, I agree.
I believe they oppose each other, basically, because of evolution and, like, yeah.
I have to say that I think they can completely work together, but I think when people choose to be controversial, that's when it becomes harder to see them as working as one, because then it becomes really difficult to see the things that they can both bring to the table, and it's hard to see the positive attributes about each. One of the big debates between religion and science surrounds creationism and the theory of evolution.
Do you believe that God created the whole world and everything in it as it is today, or do you believe in evolution?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
That God created the world and everything in it.
I believe in the whole 7 days stuff, God.
Sometimes I doubt science and sometimes I doubt faith. I'm a compromise with evolution and God.
I have mixed feelings about that. I'm not really sure.
I'm undecided, I don't know.
I think that God definitely created like everything and he was the start of it all.
I can believe it.
Well, I believe that God did create the world, and like the Bible says in Genesis, I believe that that's what happened, and I stand firm on that. And I mean, even as I look out over the skies at night, you can see the majestic of God's creation and how each little detail God worked out in the earth for us to see His glory in the earth.
I believe in exactly how God created the world. I'm very religious into that.
No, I definitely think God created everything. And made everything possible. I think He started the world.
Genesis chapter 1 states, "In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth,
The earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep."
while a wind from God swept over the waters."
According to the Catholic Youth Bible, this simple verse, "In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth."
And the following account proclaims one of the foundational beliefs of Christianity. God created everything that is.
The universe is not the result of a mere accident.
We believe God to have intentionally called humans into being and made them in His image and likeness.
How do you feel about creationism? Do you think the account of creation in the Bible should be taken literally as to what really happened?
I think that there's certain things in the Bible that should be taken literally and certain things that shouldn't, you know. The fact that it says that God created the world in 6 days, I don't believe, because no one was there to time that. You know, they didn't have a way to time, oh, this is a day, as compared to a million years. They could say, that's a day, you know. My science teacher told us that if the time that the world has been around were equal to a day, people, like human beings, would only be on the earth for 4 seconds. So it definitely took more than a day, but.
I completely agree with you. I think that the language in the Bible is more of figurative and not meant to be taken literally. So like you said, the amount of time that He took, that might not be true, but I believe that how He created Earth is true.
The only catchy edge with that, though, is like, I'm not trying to like disagree with any of you guys, but then I guess it comes down to this question: how do we know which passages are true and which of them are to be taken, you know, figuratively? So in that sense, I think personally, I think the creation story is a more figurative passage, because like what you said of the days, but I think that's where everything comes from, you know.
But I mean, does what you guys know about evolution and everything, does that cause you to like doubt your faith and stuff? Is there anything in that theory of evolution which supports your belief as God as the creator?
It doesn't make me doubt my faith at all. I've had my faith and my belief in God a lot longer than I've known about that theory. So when I started learning about that in like 7th grade, the first thing I did was tell my teacher that I didn't agree with that. And I've never believed in any of that because I've had my faith longer, and I feel strongly about that.
See, with me, it's kind of like I brought the evolution theory into my faith almost. Like, I see the universe, and I just see this big Rube Goldberg machine that God, He set into motion all this. He knew exactly which connections we're going to make and everything, and so He set that thing off, and bam, we're here now. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of
like a chain reaction kind
of.
of. Yeah.
So that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, when I read a book about a trial that had evolution in it, it sort of brought up the fact that the language in the Bible could really be figurative. And up until that point, I'd always been wrestling with the two different kinds of creation stories, like evolution and Darwin's theory and, you know, the Genesis. I didn't know which one to believe because Darwin seemed so scientific and so easily believable, but my faith was always telling me, like, you have to consider the other. And in this book, it brought up the fact that light wasn't created until the third day, and it could have meant that the first 2 days were so long they could have been millions of years. And it sort of just helped me to lay in place the fact that the two could really work together.
Yeah, God gave us the Bible to understand the spiritual truths of creation, and He also gave us science to understand the scientific process. So with both of those, we can determine creation.
Or at least we can try to understand it a little better. Our spotlight guest, Christy, loves science and would like to pursue a career in the medical field. Next, she tells us what her belief is when it comes to creationism and evolution.
I've always loved science and learning about, human physiology and how the systems work and everything inside. And I definitely want to go into a medical field, maybe be a surgeon, doctor. Then I can help people and I can, maybe cure cancer or something like that. I think that you can believe in God and that He created the world and in the theory of evolution, because if evolution did in fact happen, that God was the one who was making it happen. If the Big Bang Theory happened, then God was the one who made that happen, and everything after that led to the world being what it is today. I think that all the things that happen in science are because of God, that He is the one who dictates all of that happened in all of creation. The things that I've learned in science, have just proved to me that it's not just a random events all come together, that there definitely is a cycle to it, and that God really knew what He was doing, and it increases my faith to see that in what I learned in science and how it has to do with the progression of things. Just makes me believe even more that God had a handle on that and that it wasn't just a random, continuance of events.
Pope John Paul II wrote and spoke a great deal about how religion and science could both serve humanity.
Science and faith are both valuable.
They both illuminate an aspect of reality.
What are some of the issues that both science and religious belief can help us to understand better?
Science and religion can help us understand the morals and ethics of things like cloning and stem cell research, which are big issues today.
Yeah, also back in the 4th and 5th century, no one knew when a baby truly became a human being when they were in the womb. And now, because of technology, we can hear the heartbeat start, and we can watch that child, that human being grow before it enters this world.
Yeah, because our religion tells us that life begins at conception, and science has really shown that it really does begin at such an early stage.
But, and it's just switching the topic a little bit, maybe to weaponry and technology, just because we can build a nuclear weapon, does it give us the right to use it?
Yeah, we got to think of what God wants us to do with it. We can't just act.
Just because we have all these resources in the world that God put, and they're so abundant, doesn't mean we have to use them, because we have to think about whether or not they're harmful to other people or harmful to the earth.
We know that the Catholic Church has always taught that no real disagreement can exist between the theologian and the scientist,
provided each keeps within his own limits.
Faith is not opposed to science.
God created both physical reality and spiritual reality, and the two can never truly conflict.
And according to the Catholic Catechism, since the same God who reveals mysteries and infuses faith has bestowed the light of reason on the human mind,
God cannot deny Himself, nor can truth ever contradict truth.
Did you guys get that?
I think that means that since God gave us the curiosity and the resources to gain knowledge through science, that He cannot be disproved if He gave it to us.
Pope John Paul II actually wrote a book that was intertwining between faith and reason. Talked about both of them being one.
Yeah, he compared them to being like two wings of a bird. So does your faith influence the way you think about science?
It does for Christy.
Let's see her now.
My faith definitely influences the way I think about science. Everything I learned in science, I realized that it just makes me believe in how amazing God is, and because all of these things couldn't happen on their own, all the systems inside our body that keep us alive and the way the world works, I just think that that couldn't happen by chance. I think God was the one who had His big plan and His big idea and developed the world into what it is today. I go to school with a lot of people who aren't religious, and it's hard to believe in something when you're around a lot of people that don't. So when we're in class and we're learning about all these things, they take it like very hard fact right from the book, and I think at times I got in fights with some of the kids, and it also led me to doubt my faith sometimes because all these other kids didn't believe in what I believed in. Prayer is the reason why I can keep my relationship with God so strong, and because of that, when I'm learning about all these things in science, I just keep thinking to myself, well, if all this happened, God's the reason why it happened. He's the one who made everything happen. I know one of my youth leaders, when a couple years back, told me that if you're ever unsure about your faith or having a hard time, just look outside, look at nature, look at the trees, because just pretty much how amazing nature is just living proof that there is a God and everything He created, how wonderful it is. In my heart, I believe that God is the creator of the world, and in my mind, I have all these facts about science and all the theories, and I think the two really just can come together, and that's where I get my answers anyway, and form my opinions about science and religion.
I really agree with her so much. I know whenever I doubt my faith in God, I look at nature because it's so incredibly impressive that there's no way God didn't help create the world.
And I definitely empathize with her when she said that she's got her faith in her heart and what she knows about science in her mind, and she intertwines them, because that's exactly what I do. When I heard her say that, I was like, wow, that's the same thing with me.
Yeah, it's the perfect comparison.
Yeah. So does your faith influence the way you guys think about science?
It's like I said earlier, I've had my faith a lot longer than I've known about the theories in science. And you're right, when I hold my faith in my heart and the things in my mind, like scientific facts in my mind, and there are things that I don't agree with in science, and there are things that I do, and that actually helps me build my faith stronger because I understand a little better how God might have done something or how something evolved from one thing to the next.
Well, when I look at science, my faith influences the way I look at it more with ethics rather than anything else. What sort of sciences we shouldn't do because they're not life affirming and stuff like that. That's how I look at science with faith. It's not really so much what's right and what's wrong, but it is what's right and what's wrong, but not what's true and what's false. It's more what we should do and what we shouldn't do.
I look at them as two kind of different arenas, and you have to respect both. You can't just say, this one's right, this one's wrong. You have to kind of you have to be open-minded, basically.
Going back to what Christy said on the tape, about nature and everything, I think when you actually go outside and you look at nature, you're like, this can't be made up just because of evolution and atoms and all these particles. There has to be a higher being that made this to show everyone His power and the beauty of the whole world. Yeah.
I can relate to Christy when she said that she's almost scared to say her opinions because her beliefs are different than those people who she's in class with, because it is really hard when you are against something that the majority of people are for.
Yeah, I really understand, because I know when it comes to me, I relate science because of my faith. And I know my faith has influenced what I believe when it comes to morality and things like you said. So I automatically approach certain sciences with kind of a prejudice if I don't think they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, going back to what Pedram said before about nature, when I look outside and I just see all of its beauty, God had to have created it. I know that a higher being did. There's just no way it could have been done any other way.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you just see how beautiful it is, and it can't just be put there. God made it. I mean, He just wanted to show its beauty.
Someone higher had to have responsibility for it. There are many areas in contemporary thought that can be approached in faith and through science.
Sometimes these approaches support the same conclusions. On other issues, faith and science lead in opposite directions.
For instance, science finds stem cell research a promising area of inquiry, while our religious beliefs support research on therapies using adult stem cells.
The same faith leads us to oppose the laboratory creation and later discarding of embryos for the purpose of harvesting embryonic stem cells.
Our faith leads us to ask the question, should humans pursue anything that is scientifically possible?
Or are some things unethical or immoral?
Next, Christy gives her opinion in this area.
I think that humans should pursue everything scientific if it's for the good of, human life, to better it. There's a lot of medicines that are curing diseases. A family that I babysit for, the father has lymphoma, and they used adult stem cells to cure his disease, and now he's doing much better, and they didn't think that he had any hope. So I think that if you're using scientific research in that manner, then it's good, but if it's to take another life, to save another one, then I don't think that's good, like embryonic stem cell research. Well, science has even helped with the topic of abortion. Everybody who's religious says that you shouldn't take a human life, that it's a baby, and now science has even proved that they have tests and ultrasounds and all kinds of things you can do to see the progression of a baby. I've seen videos of the development of an embryo, and now there's proven facts that it is in fact a baby and it's alive.
Some other points of conflict include miracles. Do miracles happen, or can everything be explained scientifically?
Weaponization. Should every technology be utilized in weaponry? Like nuclear weapons, biological agents, computer viruses, and genetic manipulation?
An environment, natural resources. What's the proper use of the world's resources?
Do we have a responsibility to steward them, or are they all here for our use?
Have you guys given any thought to the issues that we just mentioned? What do you guys think?
Well, my principal told me this one story of a layperson who was in a hospital. She was actually expected to die within the night. And she wasn't a Catholic, so she wouldn't have known what was about to happen, but she said a nurse came in and totally cured her. And the next morning she got up and she pointed to a picture of Lucy Filippini, and she's like, that's the nurse who came in to heal us. And the doctors are like, that's St. Lucy Filippini, but she's not alive still, so.
Yeah, I heard so many stories about miracles, but one from my grandfather who went to the shrine of St. Bernadette of Lourdes in France, where people have bathed in this spring that she found and completely walked away from their wheelchairs and crutches and left this shrine completely cured of their horrible ailments. And I just don't think that there's any way that science can explain that, because it's got to just be about faith.
When we're talking about like natural resources and stuff, I don't think we should use all the resources that this earth has to offer, like CFCs. Originally we thought those were wonderful things, and it turns out they're eating a hole in our ozone and causing all kinds of problems. So I think we need to be careful about what we do use and what we don't, and remember that there are going to be future generations that are going to need those too, so we have to remember to share with them in a way.
Because our faith teaches us to share everything in there. So, I mean, you got to share the resources too.
And with technology today, we have computer science, which helps businesses, NASA, and even scientists. And people are creating computer viruses, which are messing up these businesses. And I think it's completely wrong. They shouldn't be doing that.
I had a discussion about embryonic stem cell research, and if we feel it's as unethical as, say, getting an organ transplant to save someone's life. I mean, science views it as, well, either way, a life was lost, but faith views it as the embryo never had a chance, you just took away the right, and with an organ transplant, the person died naturally. It's a totally different circumstance that science isn't grasping.
This is kind of like genetic manipulation. Science views it as you're trying to make, the perfect child or whatever, but religion kind of sees it as, aren't you playing the part of God? It's not your role to play.
Yeah, like when you're trying to change the sex of your child or the hair color of your child before they're born, you're doing that for selfish reasons, That's the hair color you want your kid to have, and it might not be going with God's will. And I think that's the most important thing. You always have to follow what God wants you to do.
I definitely agree. So do you think science can teach you anything about God?
Oh, I think it can, not necessarily teach you about the nature of God, but it can teach you how God affects the world. Because I mean, I get Discover magazine, there was an article about, they did a study on prayer and how when a person's praying and meditating, your brain waves change. It's really crazy, and it's kind of wow, that really just shows me how God is like there and he's with you at that time. And it's kind of like, that's how science can show me, not necessarily what God is, but how he affects the world and everything.
Well, I don't think it really changes. I think more like adjusts. Like when you learn about science, usually you learn about your faith first, but then when you learn about science, you either think, oh no, I think my faith is stronger, or you either put your faith aside and say, no, I think science is more dominant, more valid.
But I think with science, when you're learning about all of the processes and stuff, you can understand what God created better.
After all, like, science can help us to remain grounded in observable and experiential reality.
Its methods remind us to look deeply at the world and everything in it for the fingerprints of the Creator.
Religion teaches us to be cautious about claiming scientific absolutes.
There are many things that cannot be explained, realities that cannot be seen or measured, yet they still exist.
What are your views on science and religious belief?
We want to know.
Contact us through our website.
The address is realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
We leave you with a passage from Psalm 19.
How clearly the sky reveals God's glory.
How plainly it shows what he has done.
Each day announces it to the next day.
Each night repeats it to the next.
No speech or words are used. No sound is heard.
Yet the message goes out to all the world.
And is heard to the ends of the earth.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV.
God bless.